Tracy Dietrich. I think a lot of y'all have seen me before over the years. Pleased to be here this morning and going to spend the next little bit with you to talk to you about your benefits program, which we know is important to you and your families, and it's a major expense here at SRS. So if you have questions, just jump in with them. Susan, my associate, also is here. She's going to be doing a Spanish meeting. I'll try to keep it quick, but also hit all the highlights to answer your questions. So first of all of you have a guide here in front of you, and I'm going to go through this pretty quick. So if you want to take it and open it up, and I'll stop and pause and talk about a couple of things that are kind of more important as we go through here. So when you open it up, on the left-hand side, inside the cover is a table of contents for you. And tells you kind of quickly where to go find something if you just want to go find Digit or something like that. And then there's a little message on the right from SRS. When you turn the next page, this is pages number 4 and 5. On the left-hand side, it talks about your eligibility, which is just a good reminder to you about when you become eligible as an employee, but also who's eligible to be covered as your dependent. So it has to be a legal spouse and a legal or a legal child. So if it's your spouse and you're married, then you can have them on the plan if you want. If they're boyfriend, girlfriend, they're not allowed to be on the plan. If they're your kids, whether they're adopted or birth kids, or you claim them on your income tax return, then you can have them on there, but you can't have your grandkids on unless you, again, have them as legal dependents. You can't have your neighbor's kids on, or, obviously you can't have your parents or grandparents on there because they're just not eligible dependents from the insurance company. We don't make those rules, but the insurance company does, okay? I'm gonna stop for a second before we look on the right side here. These are your medical plans. You have 2 medical plan options right now. Today is March 15th, so for the next 15 days or so, you've got your same plans, and then these changes that we're gonna talk about would go into effect on April the 1st. Not it's April Fool's Day, but no fooling, but April the 1st. So let me stop for just a second and talk about, just in general, y'all all know this because you're seeing the same things in the news and on TV, newspapers that we're seeing, and I've been doing this for 30 years. What are healthcare costs doing for all of us? I mean, my healthcare cost at my company and Susan's company, your healthcare costs, are they going up or are they going down? They're going up, right, for everybody. And what are some of the reasons why they're going up, just in general? Lawsuits, that is definitely part of it. Medical malpractice, that certainly drives the cost up. What else? Anybody?
Advancements in technology.
You got it. He read all my notes this morning. Yeah, advancements in technology. Y'all remember these, phones, these iPhones have gotten real fancy and now there are alarms and everything else. But remember back in the old days, your first phone, they were very different. So was medical technology. So advancements in technology. Aging population, the baby boomers, we're all getting older, and as we get older, just like with cars and houses, more stuff has to be fixed, so we have higher claims typically. A couple of other things too, prescription drug prices. We're basically spending money in America for research and development for most of the modern world. Some of those drugs now cost up to $30,000 a month, if you can believe that. I mean, very, very, very expensive drugs. All those things are driving healthcare costs, not just for you, our company as well. What we want to try to do is make sure you have a good plan for you and your dependents that's as affordable as possible, but there are some changes this year, okay? So let me talk about these 2 plans, and again, I'm just hitting the highlights here. We can meet with you individually, plus you'll see information in here where you can contact our BRC, our Benefit Resource Center. You can email them or call them, and they can also help you with questions. So you still have a base plan on the left and a buy-up plan. So both of these plans are EPOs. What that means is EPO, you have to go in network. You can't go out of network unless you have a life-threatening emergency. So by all means, if you're having a life-threatening emergency, then go to the nearest emergency room or hospital. But other than that, you're going to need to make sure you find either the web, call and ask, call the number on your card, and check to make sure that the doctors, labs, providers, the drugs, all that you take are in network with United Healthcare, okay? And be sure that you don't just say, hey, do you guys take United Healthcare? I've heard it before where someone asked, do you take United Healthcare for an MRI? And they said, oh yeah, we take United, but they took it out of network and then it wasn't paid or cost a lot more for the individual. So say, I know you take United Healthcare and Blue Cross and Aetna. I want to make sure that you're actually contracted with United Healthcare. That's what we mean, okay? Does that make sense? Now, let me talk about the deductibles, okay? Because that's the first thing that you're going to see changing on April the 1st here. So the first plan here on the left, the base plan, that's had a $3,000 deductible for several years here. We've done a pretty good job over the last 4 or 5 years of being able to, we've changed carriers a couple times, we've been able to mitigate cost increases to keep your plan pretty stable of the same benefits for about the last 4 or 5 years, mostly speaking, and a similar cost without a big giant cost increase. This year we're facing a lot tougher obstacles and a lot tougher job to do And so we've gone out to literally all the insurance companies, and the very best we could come back with is what you're looking at here. Now, the deductible is gonna go up from 3,000 to 5,000 for the base plan, starting April 1st. And for the buy-up plan, it's been 500 for a long, very, very long time, and it's also gonna go up. Let me tell you why, what drove that decision, okay? Because sometimes, I mean, immediately I can see people go, holy cow, how would I ever come up with $5,000 or, $1,000? Here's the facts, not an opinion, okay, the facts. We looked at every single claim that happened last year at your company, every single one of them, and in the whole entire year, so for 12 months, in the base plan, out of 60 roughly people that were covered, there was 9 people that hit the deductible. So 51 people that didn't. And in the buy-up plan, which has 30-something people, out of all those people that paid extra to buy up to have a $500 deductible, 7 people hit it. So the total results is an entire company of a little over 100 people, 16 people hit the deductible. So what we're saying is, for the most of the group, so 85% of the group, having the deductible being higher is a better deal because you're not having to pay more, but for everybody to have a deductible that everybody's not using. Now, if you're one of the 9 people or the 7 people, so if you're one of the 15%, 16 people that use the plan, and you're gonna have a deductible again this year, then it's gonna be a little higher, so you're gonna pay more for that. But for most of the people, even if it was a 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 deductible, it didn't matter because you didn't hit the deductible anyway. So does that make sense? So statistically, less than around 15% of the people of the whole group are even hitting the deductible. And we don't wanna have both the company's money and your money both spent for something that only 15% of the people are using. We still wanna have it be a deductible. Now, let me tell you, when I talk about deductibles, why that's the case. Why did only 15% of the people hit the deductible? So almost everybody, if you really looked at the numbers, had some kind of either a doctor visit, which was a copay, or a pharmacy visit, which is a copay. So most people don't pay the deductible because if you go to the doctor, if you go to the pharmacy, if you go to the urgent care or emergency room, you don't pay the deductible, you just pay a copay. So what are the things that trigger the deductible? Typically, it's one of these 3 things every year, okay? So other than a couple of far out examples like having crutches or a hearing aid or a wheelchair, the 3 things that would make you hit the deductible would be number 1, an inpatient hospital stay. We had a baby, some of y'all remember that last year, so I got a 19-and-a-half-month-old. I was doing a meeting recently and someone said, a 19-year-old, Tracy, or a 19-month-old? I'm like, 19-month-old. I have a little baby, just kind of late-stage parent. So when my wife went in, sitting in the wheelchair, signed in to be there for a couple of days, that's gonna be the deductible. So inpatient hospital. Number 2 would be outpatient surgery. Outpatient surgery is not the same as going into the hospital typically. You usually go to some kind of facility, maybe you go in and have your appendix taken out, or you go in and have your knee scoped or something like that. But be careful and ask questions because you could also have outpatient surgery done in a doctor's office. I've seen it before where someone had a bad cut and they did the little glue gun. That's not surgery to me, but I'm not a medical doctor. And they coded that as outpatient surgery. So ask the question. If you're in the doctor's office, they say, hey, I see a little mole here on the back of your arm and I'm gonna take that off. No problem, doc, if that's what you need to do, but how are you gonna code that? Are you gonna code that as outpatient surgery, or is that gonna be coded as just my normal doctor visit with a copay? There's a big difference on what I'm gonna have to pay, right? So you wanna ask those questions. So outpatient surgery, inpatient hospital, and the third thing, MRI, or PET scan, CAT scan. So if you have an MRI, it's gonna hit the deductible. Barring that, there's less than 15, 16 people in the company, 16 people last year that had one of those type of things done. But most of the people had a copay for doctor, drug, all that kind of stuff, okay? So that's your 2 plans. Just again, I'm hitting the highlights here. There are a couple of things that are actually better. Even though the cost is going up a little bit, remember the cost is going up to the company too. They're already paying most of the, over $1 million. The cost is going up a little bit to you, starting April 1st. But there's a couple of things that are better. On the buy-up plan, you're gonna see that your copay for a regular primary visit is actually going down. So, it's not worth waiting going down, but it costs $25, I think right now, it's going down to $15. And also the cost of urgent care after April 1st is also going down. So other than those 2 things that are getting better, there's a couple other things that are also not getting better, they're getting worse. So lab and x-ray, if you're on the buy-up plan, we've been able to keep that under the buy-up plan, where lab and x-ray would be covered at just a copay. Starting April the 1st, then it's gonna be subject to the deductible and co-insurance. So what that means is right now, if you're expecting something to be done, if you need to have lab and x-ray done, and you're in the buy-up, or if you need to have surgery done, one of those things I talked about, an MRI or surgery or outpatient, it might be good for you to get on the horn today, get a hold of the doctor or hospital, go ahead and schedule it, and make sure you're in there and having it done by March 31st, because it's gonna be at your current level before things change a little bit, okay? When things change a little bit, if you're on the buy-up plan, like I said, there's a couple things that are better, a couple things that are not as good. Basically, the only thing that changed on the base plan is your deductible. and then the co-pays for the drugs. On both the plans, the co-pays for the drugs went up